Hello everyone. This video is going to talk about the planning document or the algorithmic design document. So you've done a few assignments now, and for all the feedback and after looking through your assignments and your documents, I think there's a disconnect in understanding what you're required of in the planning document. Okay, this is really an algorithm. So you're supposed to do this before you start writing your program. So it'll give you an idea of what to put in your program. Okay, so here's my sample planning document as you can see on the screen. This is going to be for a program where we will create a complex menu-driven program using input validation, functions, and loops. Okay, so that's what the program is supposed to do. We're going to create a calculator to calculate the sum, difference, product, quotient, and remainder of two numbers. So that's your question. You're supposed to write a program that will mimic a calculator. But it's pretty limited. You can only do a few things, right? So here are some assumptions. User supplied numbers are always integers. So I don't want you to deal with anything other than whole numbers and no division by zero. Okay, so the division operator, if the user enters a number of zero for the denominator, you must give them an error message before the program crashes on you. So we don't want the program to crash. So inputs would be the menu options, which would be plus, minus, multiplication, division, or the mod, which is a remainder operator. And then the two numbers to do the operations itself. And output would be the result of these two numbers with the operator, or clear error messages, which would be if there's a division by zero. Okay, so I have a video. This video is going to be in the document. I'm going to post all this on T2L. I'm sure by now, if you're watching the video, you probably found it. So here is the algorithmic design document requirements. You can find this in every assignment of yours, where in the middle I say, have this done first and then start writing your program. So consider starting with a sample run to help with the planning process. What is a sample run? In all my assignment, in the questions, you can see there's a sample run that kind of talks about how the program should flow when the user runs the program. Okay, that's a sample run. And I have one here and I'll show you. Plan the logic steps for your algorithm. You must have numbered step-by-step, unambiguous or clear instructions. That's what that means, clear instructions to solve the problem. And to help you put this together, I have a bunch of questions. All you need to do is answer these questions. Okay, easier said than done. I can tell you that, but let's walk through it and see how we can answer these questions. Okay, so we start with the sample program run. The program run should look like this, and I did this before I wrote the program. So this is kind of how I want it to look, right? Once you have the skeleton of an idea of how you want it to look, then you will be able to write your program better. And you do have programs where you have to write a menu-driven program, you have complicated programs. As you go through, you will see after assignment 4, it gets pretty complicated. So it will help you to have an idea of what you need to do, how your program should look. So first I have a welcome message. It says, welcome to my calculator. This calculator will only take whole numbers. Let them know that. You can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and find the remainder. Okay, so please pick an option, and I give them the options. And these are the options that they can enter: plus, minus, multiplication. So make it very clear. This is all part of the user interface, which is part of your criteria, the rubric, if you have looked at it, right? So divide two numbers, mod, find the remainder of the division operation. So give them clear information on what they need to enter. And here's my prompt. It sits at the command prompt with those two greater than signs, or you can use something of your choice. And this is what the user enters. The user enters plus. Then I tell them, okay, please enter two whole numbers. So input validation would be if they did not enter any of these. Okay, so please enter two whole numbers, and they enter 3 space 4. It would be better if I go on to say, please enter two whole numbers with separated by a space. That is even better. A little bit more information for the user. So your answer is, then my output would say your answer is 7, because they entered a plus, they entered 3 and 4. Then I ask them, would you like to run again? Because this is a menu-driven program, and its requirements are to use functions and loops and conditions, of course. So would you like to run again? The user says yes. Then I run the program, and it should look exactly like that. Welcome to my calculator. I just copy and paste that part because it's the same thing, right? Then now the user says, mod, find the remainder of the division operation. Then, oh, I'm sorry. No, these are my choices. The user enters 9, exam. So I say invalid operator, please try again, because 9 is not one of these options. Then they enter the multiplication sign. So then say enter two whole numbers, 9 space 4. Then I say your answer is 36. So here's an example of an error message that should show up if they type in the wrong operator. Okay. Okay, we run again. It says, would you like to run again? Yes. So they need to just type in Y or no. And notice they type a capital Y, it should still work, right? Not just a small y. Okay, this calculator would only take whole numbers. We go through the whole thing again. They enter division. I enter 9 space 0, and you tell them an error message that says error, you cannot divide by 0. Then you output the message again, please enter two whole numbers. So if your loop and your everything is written correctly and your logic is right, it should go back and ask them to enter two whole numbers again. And I enter 9 and 4, and the answer is 2.5. And then would you like to run again? And I say yes, and it goes through and does the whole thing again. Mod operator, 13 and 5. The answer is 3. 13 mod 5. 2 times 5 is 10. The remainder is 3. Would you like to run again? They say no. I say good. Thank you for using my calculator. And we're done. That's the sample run. So in the sample run, you should kind of have all the different situations. What happens if they type in the wrong operator? What happens if they type in a 0? Those are the things that you need to catch. So make sure you have those included for yourself. So when you look at it and say, oh, this is how it should look when I write my program. So then you write the algorithm. This is the algorithm itself. And here are my questions in that order. If you look up here, these are the questions, A through E. And that's what I have down here. Identify the user input. How many different inputs do you need? My inputs for this program, if you go and take a look at my menu, is my menu option, two whole numbers, and the final yes or no for the repeat. Those are the inputs. So you tell them my input options are the menu options, two whole numbers to do the operation, a yes or no answer for the repeat of the program. Okay. Then what data types do you need? Char variable for the option, which is that menu option. You can use numbers if you want to. It all depends on how creative you are with your menu and how clear you are with the user menu. Two whole numbers, int variables, multiple variables, char variable for the final yes or no answer. Those are the data types. You must specify the data types and the names of the variables. These are the names of my variables. What calculations do you need? List all formula needed. So I need to be able to add, subtract, divide, multiply, and find the remainder of the two whole numbers. I really don't have a formula as such other than these operators. So you say, I need all these operators. If you're actually using a formula like your jelly bean program or your volume of a sphere, then you must specify the formula. If it involves a pi, which is a constant, you must specify where that constant is coming from. Are you declaring it? It would be one of these. It's not necessarily an input, but it's a constant. So you must put that in somewhere here. Then I have the process needed to break down from the input to the output, transform input to the output using numbered steps again. And here is where you must include all required constructs, meaning variables, input, output, computation, or if it has, you could have loops. This has functions too. So what if it has functions or conditionals? All of those should be listed here. So I said break down the program into 6 functions. So you really have to think about this before you start writing your program. So break down the program into 6 functions. I have a welcome function. All it does is output the welcome message. And all this will make more sense once you actually start writing functions. If you don't have functions, you can put it all in one main function, which is fine. At this point, until week 5, you're only going to be doing in main. So you can put all of this information in main. This is just to show you how to break it down into functions. So each function has its own different thing that it does. Welcome function outputs the welcome message. Menu function displays the menu to the user. Read option function reads the option from the user. Now that we are reading from the user, it has to go back, returns the value to main. Main takes that and sends it to validate data function. This function makes sure the user enters the right choice. If the user enters the wrong choice, it stays in a loop until the user enters the right choice. Then it gets the right choice and it returns to main. Then main takes that and sends it to the calculate function. In this function, it first asks the user to enter 2 numbers. For this program, we do not check if they are integers. That is beyond the scope of this, so you do not need to do that. So you can assume that I will test it only with whole numbers. So then it does the following conditional statements. If the operator is plus, it adds the 2 numbers and displays the results. Else if the operator is minus, it subtracts the 2 numbers, and so on and so forth. Here's all my conditionals, right? When the calculations are done and the results displayed, it goes back to main. Then main comes again and calls the same thing over and over again. Here's how main looks. Calls the welcome message function, Call the menu function. Notice all these have to be in the right order. Then call the read option function, calls the validate data function, calls the calculate function, finally goes back, asks the user if they want to run the program, do steps A to F, I said, but this is now 1 to 7. Somewhere along the line, I changed my numbering. So that looks like that 1, 2, 7, like that, in a loop until the user enters N to quit the program. This is why you must have numbered steps, because when we get into a loop, I can say do steps 1 to 7 in a loop until the user enters no to quit the program. If you don't have numbers and you have bullets, it's very hard to tell it where to go. I don't want to say go to statements. It's better to say this, right? Okay, when we're all done with that, we end with a pleasant message to the user. We say, well, thank you for using my calculator. You're done. So that's the process of transforming input to output. And here is the end of the program. What is the program output? That's my last question in my list of questions. Good results that are whole numbers with labels or clear error messages. That's my output. Int variable for the result. Good results would be sum of two numbers, product of two numbers, difference of two numbers, quotient and remainder of two numbers, and an appropriate error message for division by 0. And end with a pleasant message to the user. So your planning document should look like this, all in English. I don't want to see any C++ code here. You cannot have any C++ code in any of this because it's an algorithm, right? So looking at this program now, at this planning document, you should be able to write a calculator program. And you can actually try that because I don't have any assignments like that. And I'm not showing you how to write a program. My goal was to just show you how to do the planning document in this video. So I hope this helps, and I would like to see your planning document written out in this format or close to this format using your own choice of words, but it should flow like this.